It is my honor to welcome Dr. Bruce Walker.
Thanks very much for that kind introduction. Distinguished guest, Mr. Brainy, faculty, parents, family, friends, students, and finally, graduating seniors. It's quite an honor to return to Boulder High, where I also graduated, and speak to you this morning. First, I want to extend my congratulations. Congratulations to the friends and families of the class of 2012. I'm sure your support and sacrifices were pivotal in helping these graduates reach this important milestone. Congratulations also to the faculty and staff of Boulder High for your mentorship and commitment to these students. And most importantly, congratulations to the graduating seniors. Your achievement is truly worthy of celebration, and you look marvelous. When I asked one of my nephews who attends another high school in Boulder Valley what I should talk about today, he was pretty blunt. He said, "Don't kid yourself, it doesn't matter, nobody's going to listen." And maybe he's right, because I sat where you are years ago, and I really have absolutely no recollection of who our graduation speaker was, or what he or she may have said. But I do have great memories of how happy I was, and I have great memories of the celebration afterward. But since I'm here, let me tell you these stories about experiences I had that have taught me lessons that I'd like to share with you. When I graduated from Boulder High, I decided not to go to college right away, but to get a job. And I was fortunate to be hired by a Boulder roofing contractor. When I showed up for work on the first day, he handed me a nail apron and hammer, a roll of tar paper, and a bundle of shingles, and pointed me to the roof. The instructions were pretty simple. Nail down the tar paper in a straight line across the roof, and then hammer in the shingles. I climbed up and began walking backward across the roof, unrolling the paper. As I nailed it down, I stopped every few feet to admire my accomplishment, and at one point proudly looked over the long straight line I'd created and realized how far I'd come. Suddenly it dawned on me. I turned to see how much farther I had to go, and found myself standing with my heels an inch over the edge of the roof, with a pile of rubble 2 floors below me. I did that windmill thing with my arms and was able to narrowly avoid a disaster. So the first lesson that I learned straight out of high school was this: pay attention to where you're going, not just where you've been. The next year I went to college here at CU. Mr. Holland, my Boulder High 10th grade biology teacher, suggested that I consider medicine as a career if I liked biology, which I did. I decided to take pre-med courses and major in chemistry. I also signed up for an independent scientific research project to see what it was like to work in the lab. The project was esoteric and involved sitting for long hours collecting samples of some obscure organic compound. To me, the project seemed irrelevant to real life, and I realized there were probably 2 people in the world who were interested in the outcome of my experiments, and sadly, I was not one of them. In the end, I dropped the course and decided that research was really not for me. Despite that, I was fortunate to be able to go on to medical school, and when I started working as a doctor, I was certain of one thing. I did not want to do medical research, but I wanted to take care of patients. I got my first job at Harvard Medical School in 1980, and was in awe of the physicians there, people I considered to be giants in the field, doctors who knew everything about every disease. And then something very strange happened. A young man came into the emergency room with a disease nobody had ever seen before. His immune system had simply collapsed. He had multiple infections and cancers at the same time, and rapidly died despite all our efforts to save him. The doctors said it was some anomaly and we would probably never see another case like it. Shortly thereafter, another patient came in with the same thing, and then more and more. And the doctors that I admired so much were as troubled and perplexed as I was by these sick patients. This was our introduction to a new and horrible disease that was eventually called AIDS, and one of the greatest medical problems of our time. I realized then that unless we did something, unless we did laboratory research to understand what was causing this disease and develop drugs and vaccines to combat it, we would have nothing to do for our patients except watch them die. As a result, I decided to become an infectious disease specialist and work not only as a medical practitioner but also as a research scientist, something I had adamantly crossed off my list at an earlier time. And I decided to study AIDS, a disease that did not even exist when I graduated from Boulder High and from CU. And it's become my passion. And so I want to suggest that as you go through these coming years, keep an open mind and be willing to reverse your firm decisions as the times, circumstances, and your interests evolve. I'm sure that there will be opportunities for you to make a difference in ways that cannot even be imagined today. My last story has to do with having an ambitious vision. I've spent 30 years studying how the body fights HIV and why it fails. That journey has taken me to South Africa, to the heart of the AIDS epidemic, where we helped build a research institute and where I spend considerable time studying blood samples from persons with HIV infection. I've met amazing people in the process, including incredible patients facing dire circumstances with grace and bravery and toughness, compassionate and devoted caregivers, and passionate advocates. The hospital there in which we work has a visionary director who used the latest technologies to enhance patient care, including a computer-based medical record system. For a full year, the salesman of that system tried to keep having a meeting with me, and I kept putting him off, thinking he was trying to sell me more of his product. Finally, the superintendent of the hospital, Helga Holz, asked me to meet with him, saying he was well-meaning and only wanted to ask a question. We did meet, and his request was simple. Would I tell the owner of the medical record system that it was saving patients' lives because he was worried the company would pull out of South Africa because of the political difficulties there. There was no question it was saving lives, and I gladly agreed. When I spoke with the owner, he expressed interest in learning more about what we were doing in South Africa, and I invited him to join me on my next trip. 2 weeks later, we were in KwaZulu-Natal at the heart of the HIV and TB epidemics. He saw the situation at the hospital. He saw the situation in the rural lands. At the end of the trip, he said he did not know how anyone could see what he had just seen and not want to get involved, and asked how he could help. I told him of all of our work there and that it was dependent upon donations, and mentioned different things that would be helpful, focusing on things that would only require small donations. But I also mentioned a vision that I had never spoken about before, that what I really hoped to do was to solve the AIDS problem by making a vaccine, and that I thought we could do this only if people from many fields of science, other than the typical medical research specialties, were brought together and given the funds to work on the problem. He thought this would certainly be quite expensive, and I agreed, and we left it at that. Over the next year, I saw him a few times, and each time he asked me to explain more about this idea we had discussed. His questions prompted me to think more concretely about it, and then one day he came again to my office and asked about the vision. I explained that I thought other scientists in Boston, in biomedical engineering, mathematical modeling, computational biology, for instance, who had not previously been working on AIDS, would gladly get involved if they knew the difficulties we were encountering and would bring new innovative ideas to help tackle the problem, and that traditional forms of funding for research would never allow this kind of cross-disciplinary teamwork. He interrupted me and said, "It sounds to me like you need about $10 million a year for about 10 years, or $100 million in all. Is that about right?" Stunned by his question, I somehow blurted out that those numbers sounded correct, and he said that he and his wife would like to give that amount. And that is exactly what Terry and Susan Reagan have done. I learned in a big way that a necessary step in making a vision a reality is being able to express that vision. I hadn't dared to believe that this vision could actually come true, but the Reagan Institute of MGH, MIT, and Harvard was indeed established in 2009 with a commitment to work in collaboration with other scientists to make an effective AIDS vaccine. And I can tell you that we've made important discoveries and we are getting closer to a vaccine, and I firmly believe that we as a scientific community will achieve this goal. When I sat there at my own high school, here at my own high school graduation, I never imagined the path my career would take, one that is much more meaningful and much more varied than I had ever envisioned. I've been fortunate to have people who believed in me along the way, people who kept me afloat during the failures and disappointments I kept encountering, and who encouraged me with each accomplishment to set the bar higher. I wish the same for you. When those opportunities and challenges come along, I hope that you will embrace them, find your own passion, and do what you can to contribute to solving the problems of your generation. As you embark on your own careers, I encourage you to take advantage of exciting opportunities as they arise. Look ahead, rise to meet the new challenges that come your way, and dare to dream big to tackle them. And in doing so, I believe you will lead a richly rewarding and meaningful life. Good luck and congratulations to the class of 2012.